Well, if I can make a little bit more progress on some emails, I think I might work on my motorcycle today. It's a beautiful day. It's June 5th, I believe? I'm not too sure. Is it 6? Not too sure. Friday. I'm leaving Badminton without, there being any structured play of either competitive games or coaching or anything. But I came in with such low expectations. So when and of course they don't want to talk about that. That's why you get complaints, and sometimes the guy in charge, who says he's not always in charge, he says, well, you argue. Well, I argue when you do things that aren't okay. So it's like, imagine a parent brings their naughty kid always to the daycare, and then they want to talk, the behaviors were like this. And it's like, hey, stop complaining about my kid. And then she doesn't get how the other kid's day was ruined because she won't, be a parent. I do feel there's a lot of adults who don't learn and who don't manage their own feelings, and more everywhere. And so I kind of, you're dealing not with children, but adult children with, disabilities they don't want to acknowledge or overcome. My expectations are low, and I'm sitting and not even sure I'm changed if I want to play. Part of it is my digestion issues, which are either made worse when I access medical care or I don't get access to medical care. And people that work in mental health, I tell you, they spread the stigma that they don't want to talk about their own mental health, I tell you. Now let me ask you this, if you're a mental health worker of any kind and you kind of refuse to talk about mental health, and I'm not saying with your patients, although it can be appropriate at times as a counseling tool, but if you don't want to do it anytime, even with your colleagues and support groups or whatever, professional development day, then do you think that mental illness issue you don't want to talk about is going to get better or worse? Well, it's the same thing at Badminton, right? I mean, there's Badminton BC or Badminton Canada. I say, hey, there's this club here. I've never seen some of the longtime locals, more or less in charge, destroy the sport that is so good for the brain and the body. Like, here, can you investigate? Which would mean they would have to, talk to city people, interview players that come or don't come anymore, and school district to see, how the sport is supported in this community or not, based on these elites. But not elites as in, they have a lot to teach, and some of them are better than others by a lot, but do they have the ability to teach that with the right attitude and methods to the learners? No, they don't. I mean, driving, look at driving. I have a lot of specialties, mental health, badminton, driving, and I keep track of the devolution of the human condition in this way. You can really tell. And sometimes a lot of these things mix together. And it's sad, that's the way it is. So when I first arrived on Vancouver Island, there was a strong club in Nanaimo. Rode my motorcycle in the rain 3 times a week. Sometimes depressed, would just sit too depressed to play, and they would encourage me. Such a great club. Then I got over that, my depression, and then, became a better player. And not necessarily because I received structured coaching, that I should have, because sometimes I'm a student at that university where they're getting me to coach their worst players, but never accept me in the team all the years I was there. And the people that are worse are foreign students, and that brings in a lot of money, and they probably say, oh no, they'll be better than you in a couple of years, they're young, so we have to accept them now for the experience. I don't know if you let them play, but it wouldn't be good for your awards. Thing is, sometimes they finish their degrees where they don't think they had a good education, and they also didn't get much better. Part of it is you didn't get me to work with them enough, because you would limit how long I'd be there, because a culture repair is the same to the norm as a troublemaker. But now I just sit just because of low expectations, not depression. I sit because of a bloating from health issues, which would go away if I had the discipline to either exercise more by myself or found healthy groups such as volleyball. Something in the paper I saw, so I'm going to approach the people. Can I come help out? It'll get me to play volleyball again, which I miss, and maybe be appreciated. Now let's say I'm appreciated there, but then I get an offer of something where I'm a lot more appreciated somewhere else. They would say, fine that you've been complaining, we're appreciating you working with these youth with volleyball because it doesn't take much and they could compete and travel and have great world experiences. Well, I could say the same for badminton, but then I'm going to say, well, thank you so much for the appreciation, but this is not enough for a polymath that has so much more to give to stay in this community. And the fact you don't get that, again, makes it that I'm not even going to ask you anymore for a letter of reference for however long I would have been appreciated in that volleyball group, helping to support the youth, right? When you get people appreciate you, but they also want to violate your human right if you don't make the decisions in your life that they'll make an effort to understand is better for you, or that encompasses, you know, the reality I exist outside of them, and so do my rights. I don't want references from people like that anymore. I mean, I've had references from people where you tell them things were in their role. They should do things to protect the youth, and they don't. So I don't want those kind of references.